Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning for some of us. Welcome back to another basically Meet the Expert session. I am absolutely honored and amazing amount of pleasure to be joined by Chris Hadnagy this time. This is fantastic. Again, major disclaimer for everybody in the audience. Chris and I have spent many an afternoon and an evening sitting down with some amazing bottles of whiskey between he and I and a number of very good friends. So this is going to be more of a fireside chat than anything else. So Chris, please introduce yourself, say hi, and tell everybody what the heck you're up to these days.
Hey everybody, it's great to be here. I heard that you just got to watch me yap for a little while, about an hour ago, so hopefully I didn't bore you to death. Like Chris said, we've been friends for years. I've been in the social engineering world for a decade and a half. And what am I doing? Let's see. Well, I'm quarantined, so I'm doing a lot of talking about social engineering. Let's see, the biggest exciting things. January 5th, I have my fifth book coming out. I got signed by HarperCollins.
Fair. Oh, no way. Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I know, it's crazy. It's like a real huge, like New York Times seller book about using social engineering in everyday life to accomplish goals in everyday life. Like, so not malicious stuff, not pen tester stuff. It's like communicating with your spouse, communicating with your boss, like how to use these skills every day.
That's
Yeah,
going to
it's
be
huge.
fantastic.
I'm excited.
That's, yeah, and that's something from an industry standpoint we are in sore need of. I mean, we talk about this. We talk about this so much about the industry and about how, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, we're ineffective at communication. And quite often I'll talk to people, I'm like, go grab one of Chris's books or go watch a bunch of the webinars, for crying out loud.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
we sit behind a keyboard and a screen so much that sometimes I think we forget there's a human on the other end of everything we're doing. And we have to treat them with respect and empathy because that's our clients. It's the people we're working with.
that's a huge part about it. I mean, so talk to me about that for a second. You're right. I mean, we do sit behind keyboards, especially to your point at the moment with us, so much of it's being quarantined. What's driving you? I mean, book number 5. I mean, that's the amount I'm knowing because of helping people write books before. The shit ton amount of work this involved.
Yeah.
What keeps you? What's driving you? Talk to me about what's driving you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really awesome question. So the things that drive me now are different than what's when I started. And I would say now one of the big motivators for me is seeing how the skills and the things that I've helped build in the industry over the years are helping other people. How I could see that other people are using these for. I mean, I've had people come to my class and afterward tell me that the stuff they learned in our social engineering class, which this is mind-blowing, saved their marriage, made them quit their job and go get the career they wanted, made them better salespeople, made them better. I had a group of psychologists come to a class and learn how to communicate with their patients better. It was like crazy stuff. I did a class for U.S. military, did a class for SOCOM, did a class for MI5 and MI6. Like, just to sit there and go, I'm doing these classes for these people and not because they're going to learn, deep, dark social engineering skills. Dear Lord, that's a horse. But because they're using these things in their everyday life to communicate. And for me, that's what keeps me coming back is that there's a lot more to learn and there's a lot more to teach. And I'm always learning new stuff. So it just motivates me to keep trying.
You want to talk about communicating with these guys, and actually listening to
Yeah.
you over the years has been fantastic between you and Jen in the ability, because the effective communication with an animal is one of the hardest things I think I've ever figured out how to actually tell. And you talk about it so often in the books and everything else. It's not always about the spoken language. It's what the facial is, what the body's doing, all of these other things that we miss so much in this digital world as well now. So, I mean, that's a really interesting one because I know there were some talks about, what's going on in that world. I'm really interested in what you've seen, especially in the last 6 to 9 months, the change in communication patterns, and then what can we do about it?
Yeah. Quick side point is, they did a scientific study and found that dogs have the same nonverbal receptors in their brains that humans do. So the reason a dog is always staring at your face is it's looking for the micro cues to what should I do next? How is he feeling? and they're
Yeah.
reading your emotional state and then reacting to that state, whether it's anger, sadness, happiness.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating.
Yeah.
So 6 to 9 months, the whole, like, this is an interesting topic because whenever we see like some kind of catastrophe happen, like tsunamis hit Japan, and I know you and I spoke about this before, there's hacker sites, there's spam sites, there's phishing emails hours after it's over, they're going out. And it's centralized to people that are Japanese or people in Japan. And now we have a world pandemic. We have a global pandemic that has shut down everybody and everything. So what we're noticing now is that the attack vectors are across the board, everybody, from your grandma to your CEO. Vishing has increased dramatically, which I didn't think that was even possible. And now smishing is like one of the largest vectors we're seeing, which is nuts because a year and a half ago, we were like, yeah, it happens every now and then. But we probably all got your FedEx package is not being delivered, click here. And there was a number of Android exploits out last year that were pretty hefty. So the attack vectors are becoming more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like they're over every device that we communicate with.
Yeah.
Email, phone, cell phone, everything.
Yeah, it's like they've cast a net because it's not always a sophistication. Sometimes it's just purely the numbers game. If I can get if I can get 1 million of these out and 0.1% click on them, I've made my numbers. And especially to your point, it's email, it's SMS, it's fun, and now, I mean, you and I. So for Cyber Week, for anybody that doesn't know, the United States is currently coming up to an election. Yay for us!
That's going to be a mess.
Oh my gosh,
it's going to be a mess, I tell you.
Yeah. You want to talk about communication capabilities, collaboration, challenges, messaging, counter messaging, and all that stuff. We've done a couple of talks. Actually, that's interesting. Have you done much in ways of talks about like look at fake and truth and reality? How much have you talked about that stuff? I'm interested in that. Set up for a minute.
Yeah, I did a few interviews and some other things related to nonverbals, incongruency and nonverbals, like watching someone's face or body and saying, look, they're saying yes, but everything in their nonverbals is saying no. And that it's always fascinating to watch that stuff, especially in the arena of news or politics or other things, how we really don't communicate very honestly often.
Do you find that more, are you seeing that or finding that more that we're so much more digital now, or was it always physical? Is it digital? Have we taken advantage of that digital realm more?
Yeah, so I think the first few months of this world, it really affected a lot of people. I just read this article yesterday that said, oh boy, there's my dog. I'm sorry. Sorry, folks. Sorry.
Don't worry about it. Mine just came in to say hi. You're fine.
So, Dakota, it's okay. Stop. So the first few months of this digital realm, what we found is many people were, okay, enough. You told me he's there. Calm down. They were very depressed and isolated. I read this article yesterday that talked about how teen suicide in this country has went up something like 80 something %. And the suicide hotlines are all related to the loneliness that they feel due to being quarantined. And you look at this and we're together, but we're not. And you said it in the beginning. You and I are used to hanging out. We're used to getting together at least a couple times a year and talking and drinking whiskey and laughing our butts off until wee hours of the morning. And we haven't done that now in a year.
Yeah.
So that's going to affect relationships. It's going to, good friendships will last, but it's weird. It's difficult,
It is a big one. Yeah. And it's to your point. I mean, there's a number of, I do a number of like webinars and things like that with people just on like a weekly or bi-weekly basis. And it's nice, but it's not the same. It's like Cyber Week, again, a shout out for Cyber Week. Going over there and hanging out at Tel Aviv University and 60 countries worth of people just hanging out with you is,
there's something about that.
And absorbing it. It's just freaking amazing. And again, you got the Israeli culture, which is what I love as well. I mean, we talk about this when we're on stage. In so much of the Western culture, people are like, oh, yes, or you disagree, but you don't ever put your hand up and go, hey, I'm not sure about this one. What I love about over there, there's no freaking premise. If I don't agree with you, we're going to have the conversation.
Uh-huh.
It's just so lovely.
That's a nice culture. That's a nice culture.
I miss
So,
it.
then back to the question, what I noticed then, and this is like, so you and I, right? We do this for a living. So yeah, there's a moment of loneliness and all of that stuff. But now let's take the average everyday user who never worked from home.
Yeah.
They don't sit behind a keyboard 20 hours a day. And now both spouses are working from home. All their kids are doing school from home. The digital realm has become the center of their life. And this has made life very difficult and attack vectors very easy. So people are under attack, it seems like 24 hours a day.
It's feeling that way. I mean, you've only,
Yeah.
to your point, you've got to look at the statistics as to the success rate at the moment. I mean, it's disheartening. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
It's sickening and disheartening at the same
It is.
time. Here's a question though. I mean, this is one thing that I'm interested in. It's to give our industry some credit for all the bashing that I know I do of our industry. To give our industry some credit, we do occasionally take a step back and go, okay, how do we reevaluate how we focus? That's why I love the DevSecOps movements and other things. And I think we're talking a lot more. We've always kind of been talking about, oh, how does technology going to solve it? How's all this going to happen? I think there are some people that are taking a step back and going, technology isn't the answer. How much of that are you seeing? And then where's your hope for the future on where we start focusing more effectively?
Ooh, so I am seeing a lot more community collaboration than previously. There was like this weird moment where, like when this industry started, we were all this one big giant family, and then we had this divorce, and everybody was in their corners fighting. And I'm seeing that there's a little more collaboration coming back, more people who you would say are competitors, but that are out helping other smaller businesses, become the next generation. I think the way I feel, the way you feel is, I want to retire someday. I'd like to. So to do that, we need the next generation to step up, and there's a difference for them. You and I had the ability to go, and I hate to even say it, but practice and not get in trouble.
Totally.
Kids can't do that. They can't do that now. You practice on anything, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
And we never destroyed stuff. When we practiced, we never went and destroyed anything.
Yeah.
Now, kids today, you're either good or bad, and if you're good, you have a lab here or there, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
So these kids are exiting college. They're coming to us for jobs. They want huge salaries, but they have zero experience.
Right.
So what the industry is trying to do is help build some education around for the next generation to get that experience, so they can enter the workforce and take our jobs eventually. Because that next generation is scary, because the bad guys are practicing and they're doing it effectively, and then the good guys are going to come out and have zero skill or experience to defend. It's like putting me in a ring with Mike Tyson. It's useless. He's going to knock me out with a finger. It's like, so that's what's happening to all these poor kids. They're coming out and we're like, hey, you're the next generation. Get ready. You're going to take my job. And they're like, holy crap, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, we need to fix that. But I see the industry kind of coming together more, where all of us are starting to realize, hey, I'm in my 40s, there's a time, like, I'm going to want to sit back one day and not travel 80% of the week, and, not have to crawl over fences. I want to have to, sit back and relax a little bit someday, And now it's starting to hit us. We got to get some people ready to do this.
I think the other thing as well, the other focus I'm seeing a lot more of, which makes me really, really happy, is even though we have so many people coming in and going, I want to be a pen tester, I want to go break into shit. So many people, myself including, a lot of other of us, are like, I don't want to see that. I don't need to. I don't want you to go break shit. We know that anything can be broken into. I don't care what you've got. I don't care what AI, ML, freaking quantum shit that you have. It's going to get broken into. What I care about is, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to know about it? How are you going to act, and how are you going to react? That for me is the big thing. And I'm seeing more and more people realize that and come into the industry and come in and go, how can I help, rather than how can I destroy?
Yeah, that's a nice point. I think in the industry, seeing things like bug bounty programs take off was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Huge deal, because it allowed people the freedom to go and hack stuff, but because the company said, yeah, you can do this. Go ahead, I'm giving you permission, so go do it. And I think that, to me, was a really smart move for the corporate world to come out and say, look, you guys can go hack anything you want. just tell us how you did it so we could fix it. That gives the next generation the chance to go be the bad guy, but legally, go
Yeah,
test stuff.
I love that. I mean, you look at Casey Ellis and the folks over at Bugcrowd, and then Hack One, Cobalt, or Cobalt IO, and the folks over there have done it. It's absolutely freaking awesome. I love that mentality, because again, for somebody like me, who's, when people come in, you probably get the same thing. When somebody comes and goes, "How do I get into this industry?" It's look, find what your passion is, pick up a book, figure out what it is, get involved in the community. And by the way, if you want to go do the pen testing stuff, go hit the bug bounties, start getting a name for your stuff, start getting involved with a team. And then that's a huge, rather than going out and spending a shit ton load of money on thousands of different certs.
Yeah.
Come up the traditional way, for want of a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back. I'm interested because, let's face it, you've done some freaking amazing stuff. You've got a ridiculously successful company. You've done training for countless amount of years. You've got book number 5 out. We haven't even touched on the ILO stuff. I mean, that in itself is worthy of an entire session. What got you started? What kicked this off? What was the spark that kicked you off into the industry?
That's a funny story. So, if we go back really far, my 2 months in college before I got kicked out, I wrote what would be called a war dialer, and I shut down Sarasota County's phone system. And and I was just testing. I was a phone freaker, and I thought, hey, you know how you can call and you can play these tones and you get free calls? I thought, what if I do that, threading it in a big script to like 1,600 phone numbers at once? And the whole phone system went, no, we can't handle that, and shut down. So, cops came to the college. The college was embarrassed, and they said, leave. You're not allowed to go here. But that, for me, was a passion. And I'm like, I need to understand how all this stuff works. Yeah. I was like 17, 18, bounced around multiple different things. Eventually, I took the offensive security with Backtrack course. Pen testing with Backtrack course. And I broke a machine called FC4, which was the first time anyone had ever broke that machine in the labs, and Maddie offered me a job on the spot. So he said, hey, I'm coming to a ShmooCon in DC. Why don't you come? I went, we talked, he hired me. Working for OffSec was life-altering for me. I learned what it was to be a real pen tester. I learned what it was to really try harder and think outside the box. And that altered my whole career path and everything. It was while I worked there that I wrote the social engineering framework. That framework got launched, and then Kevin Mitnick's publisher called me and said, hey, will you write a book? And I said, no. And then Maddie's like, you're a moron. Call her back and say yes. And I did, and that was Social Engineering, the Art of Human Hacking, a decade ago. Just about 11 years ago that came out. And that book is what launched this company, because as soon as it came out, people were calling me and saying, hey, can you consult? Can we hire you to do this? And I took a huge risk, thank God for my wife, because I came home and I said, hey, I want to quit my job and I want to start a company that does just social engineering. And she said, okay, how many people do it and how much money do they make? And I said, well, nobody does it right now. So I have the answer to number 2 is I don't know. And she's like, wait, you want to start a company that we have no proof if it will work? And she goes, can I think about it? I said, yes, of course. And a day later she came back and said, well, you've always been a risk taker. Let's try it. So we did, and it's been the best decision ever, because now a decade later, I got 16 people working with me. I got, we travel the globe, virtually now, but helping companies all over. And we do just social engineering. Here it is. Now it's an industry. Now a lot of people are doing it.
It's amazing how that works, isn't it? I always talk about, we, as an industry, we keep making shit up as we go along.
Yes. We make up words like vishing, and now it's in the Oxford Dictionary as a real word.
Shit. Literally. There's so many. There's so many of us. I remember we've sat around tables going, do you remember before that threading time? Remember? And just stuff like that. And you're like, oh, there's an entire industry after this now.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it? And we're not that old.
No, I feel it though. we feel
it, but we're still not that old. If you think about an industry, there's going to be a time where we're sitting around with our kids, and we're like, I remember when all this started, and it's real. It's real. We're going to actually tell those stories.
And I think that's part of the challenge in the industry is we don't have the age behind us. We don't have the depth behind us.
Yeah.
This is one of my challenges with communication, unfortunately, in the industry, is we've kind of we hit it like a bull in a china shop. We kind of used to walk into leadership's offices like we owned everything, which arguably we can do. But we kind of came in like that rather than coming in the more collaborative, communicative ways. We would come in and go, well, you have to listen to me. And that's backfired over the years. And that's a big thing. That's why to me, like DevSecOps is huge. That's why the human engineering is so freaking massive, because it isn't technology. This is a human challenge. This is all about accountability. It's all about the humans. And then how do we deal with that? How do we effectively work that process in, rather than coming in with another freaking like blinky widget?
That's an interesting point, because back when this started, it was kind of like the Wild West. So it was easy because there was few people doing it. If you were good, you were like the super sexy kind of, you could walk in the CEO's office and go, look, I just fished your whole company, or I hacked everything. Here's 10 shells, and everyone's like, ooh. And now, because it's an actual industry, there's a business behind it. We have to start learning how to speak business, because now when, Mr. CEO goes out in the world and looks for a pen tester, he has 1,000 choices, 10,000 choices. So now they're going to pick those who are talking like a business person, not like anonymous. We can't use leak speak anymore when we're talking to our clients.
Can we please tell marketing that? Seriously? I mean,
we hacksaw you. No, we can't talk like that anymore. This is, we have to mature.
The hooded, gloved figure.
Oh, please.
God, seriously, somebody.
We all love hoodies, but it's very rare for me to go to a client meeting in a hoodie.
Yeah, especially the hood up, with no face and gloves on. I'm going to take out your system. Bunch of bloody idiots sometimes, I swear. We need to tase more of them. It's as simple as that. So
tase them more often.
It's easy.
Other solutions, but we could try that one.
It's there are times when communication and I don't get on, and at that point it's just like, look, I'm going to tase you. It's going to hurt for a second. Get over it.
Yes, I've witnessed you throwing someone across a room, so this is not too far-fetched. I witnessed, everyone who's listening, I witnessed this. A man who's of a decent size called Mr. Roberts here a Welshman, and I witnessed him literally flying through the air for about 4 or 5 feet. Fortunately, he landed on a couch, but I did not think a person can throw another human that far. Only in the movies.
It comes with throwing telegraph poles. You just get a technique.
Yeah. No.
Oh, dear. All right, so we haven't touched on it, but I want to touch on it because it's freaking important. Let's talk about the other side of the business, the ILF side. I think people need to hear a little bit about this, if you don't mind.
Sure. So about 5 years ago, I was doing a pen test, and we were doing an internal scan, and we found a guy had all this weird traffic on Tor. Went to the business owner and said, hey, is there any reason why someone in this department would be on Tor? They said no. They said, should we go confiscate the machine? I said, well, we're not sure. If he's doing something illegal, we should catch him. So we actually installed the keylogger, found out this guy was, this is a real trigger warning for anyone. I won't use any graphic language, but he was videotaping himself molesting kids and then trading those videos with his work machine. And he's in prison now. And that felt amazingly good. I was like, wait, my skills, which is just hacking stuff, landed somebody who was hurting kids in prison. And I was telling this story to a group of students I was teaching, and one of the students worked for an organization that tracked people who traffic women and children into America for sex trade. And he came up and he said, would you want to help us? So I did for a couple of years, and we closed a bunch of cases. People got arrested. And then I started talking to others in the industry and saying, hey, if there was something like that you can volunteer, would you be interested? And I could not get over the overwhelming response of people saying, I would support that, I would help. So 3 years ago, I launched the ILF, the Innocent Lives Foundation. As in this country, we call it a 501c3. That means we're a nonprofit. So we are funded through voluntary donations, and then we spend that money on the mission. 3 years later, we have just closed 150 cases this year already. We have 50 volunteers, 4 full-time employees. We're working with law enforcement around the globe, and we use all legal means to uncover people who hurt children and trade in child abuse material and then get them apprehended. So we're not a vigilante group. We're not posting their names online. We're finding who they are. We're turning them over to the cops. They get arrested, and then we move on to the next mission.
I think that's a huge point that you just made, because, to be honest, I mean, I've trodden both sides of that line on a very, very regular basis, and I still do to some degree. And I think that's, you know, having worked in the forensics field on many, many occasions, what I love about the fact is you were able to take, let's face it, a very split kind of way of attacking this issue and these challenges, bring everybody cohesively together, understand what the dynamics were, understand the requirements, understand the legal side of it, be able to build the cases in an articulate and effective manner, and then be able to get everybody behind you to do it in such a way that those cases can just be handed over lock, stock, and barrel. And then from the, you know, there is no vigilantism. It's basically done effectively, cohesively, coordinated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's serious amount of freaking kudos. I can't underestimate. I can't understate that. It's ridiculous the amount of work in there from you.
It is one of our core values, right? And one of the first things I did when we started this is I hired a therapist that works for ILF. She's one of our full-time employees, and everybody that volunteers gets free therapy sessions with her. Because doing this, regardless, we're not out looking at the images, but when you do this work, you are reading things that are horrific, and you need to make sure you're taken care of mentally. So our core values of not being a vigilante, but also taking care of people, come across in this organization. So we're constantly, you know, focused on that type of stuff.
I think what I love about it as well, and this is, I do a lot of stuff with like Evan and Ryan, and to me, it's making a difference. It's what can I do with the skills I have? It's the same thing. I mean, it's like amazing skills. What can I do with the skills that I have to make a difference? And that's huge to me. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what keeps me up until stupid hours of the following morning. And I think you're probably in the same boat, I'm going to guess. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
We have it with the whiskey crew. I mean, for the audience that know me. So, I mean, you know, the whiskey case, I take that whiskey case over to Israel with me.
Oh, wow.
We have, I mean, getting it into the country is easy. Getting it back out again through those very nice Mossadi people who want to know why I'm carrying like a half-empty whiskey case through customs onto a plane full of Israelis makes for an interesting conversation on a regular basis.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But always a ton of freaking fun.
That's a lot of bottles to be carrying through security overseas. Especially from what I hear, Israeli airport security is quite good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're definitely thorough. They're definitely thorough. All right. So, final thoughts. We're down to the last couple of minutes. Hopefully, everybody's enjoying this. I don't know if I'm on the right questions and answers page, but we'll figure it out. Hopefully, everybody's getting some of this. Give me some final thoughts on this one. We've got a couple of minutes to just talk. Give me some. I mean, it's been fantastic officially sitting and talking with you, which is totally cool. But some final thoughts.
I'll give you two. So if you're trying to get into the industry, I can't stress enough to just follow some of the things that Chris here said is, you know, pick up a book, get involved in the community. Education is great and useful, but more importantly, just getting involved and becoming part of the community in a way that will be beneficial for you and for the community. You'll learn the most that way. Then secondly, if you're already in the industry, and you really, really want to learn about social engineering more so, again, there's a lot of free resources. You can go to like social-engineer.org. You can listen to the newsletter, the podcast, the blogs there, the framework. But the most important thing I'll say is just remember our motto is leave them feeling better for having met you. So you can be in this industry and you can be playing the bad guy every day, but just remember you're dealing with real people. You're dealing with real humans with real emotions. And doing that in a kind and ethical way will merit you a very long career in this industry.
Yeah, I love that.
That would be my closing thought.
I love that. That's totally awesome. And I think to me as well, it's ask questions. I mean, you're accessible. I am. So many of us. I mean, you think about the whiskey group that we have. To me, everybody's accessible. Again, shout out for the Cyber Week. The ability just to wander around that place and just talk to people. I think it's fantastic. Chris, as always, Just freaking absolute pleasure.
Great talking
Thanks
to you.
for hanging out. Thanks for being part of Cyber Week. Thanks for the talk earlier as well. Just freaking awesome on that one.
Thanks for getting me invited, man. Thank you. Seriously.
Yeah, you kidding me? I'm so flipping glad. Now, hopefully next year, or we'll see about next year.
I know.
Let's just go with that one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been Cyber Week 2020
with all of you.
The experts. Thanks to everybody. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Chris, love you. Take care. Stay safe, brother.
See you, man.